everything is just going wrong. The leaves are yellowing and dying. Plant is just looking miserable. Root tips browning, even getting brown burn marks on the roots. Plant is dehydrating. I'm doing everything right. I've got the right climates, the right humidity, the right temperatures. I feed properly and I water when the orchid needs it. And still, my plants are looking like this. And I'm just not sure why. What could be the problem? Why aren't my orchids happy? Could it be my water? Let's have a look into the reasons that water could be causing the problems for your orchids and what you can do about it. So what is it about water that's going to make your orchids look like that or like that as opposed to this? Well, there's a couple of different things that can invisibly go wrong with your water because it's that beautiful see-through clear substance and you think, it's good for my orchids, that's what they want. But you have to actually really be careful with your water, especially if you're using tap water. Tap water is often what is considered hard water. It means it has a lot of dissolved solids in it. So it's got calcium, magnesium, iron, along with chlorine and fluoride, all of these things to purify the water so that we can drink it. That doesn't necessarily mean that we should be drinking it, but that's a whole nother story. Do we want to put this on our orchids as well? We know that calcium and magnesium is essential for our orchids' growth, but are the quantities we're getting in our hard water too high for them? Especially if we are adding extra calcium and magnesium when we fertilize as well. So the problem with hard water is that the calcium and magnesium concentrations in the water may be too high. And this is going to cause problems in your orchid to start with without anything else. The higher concentrations of calcium and magnesium can interfere with the plant's ability to absorb other nutrients through the roots. But not only that, what happens with that excess calcium and magnesium? If they're also not balanced, they're going to start causing problems with each other, with the absorption rates. They need to be in balance for your plant to be able to absorb both. Also, having high concentrations of calcium and magnesium in the water is going to make that water alkaline. And what that alkaline water then is going to do, it's going to change the pH in your media. It's going to raise the pH, also making it more alkaline, and that's then going to cause problems with the absorptions of nutrients, which is going to compound the fact that fewer and fewer nutrients will be available to your plant. And this calcium and magnesium in the water is then going to start also causing salt deposits as the water evaporates out, so that calcium and magnesium is left on the media or in the media, and it's going to leave that almost white crystalline structure across the top of your media or in the media. That salt deposits in the media are then going to cause trouble for those young tender root tips. It will brown them off and kill them. Also, it will cause burns on other parts of your roots. So now we're just compounding the problems again. First we having the double dose of lack of nutrients, and now we're removing root volume so that there's even fewer nutrients in water that can be absorbed. But that's not all. Those excess salts in the media are then going to draw moisture away from the plant. So it will actually draw moisture out of those roots because that concentration of salts in the media is too high. And that's one of the ways that plants actually use their roots to absorb water, is by having a higher salt concentration inside the root that causes that osmotic pressure drawing the water in. Now you're having a higher salt concentration outside of the roots, which is now drawing water back out. So this is going to cause dehydration of your plant too. Having hard water also means that you could have high concentrations of iron in your water, which is not always true, but it can be. And too much iron can then start causing problems with calcium absorption, which then causes problems with all that new growth. And if you're feeding with iron too, then you can land up with iron toxicity. But that's not going to be too common, but it's something just to be sure to watch out for as well. And what about the chlorine in the water? We know how volatile chlorine is as a chemical and how it can very easily damage your orchids, especially those tender root tips. It's just going to burn them off. So this is going to be a lot more of an easy fix with chlorine, because all you really need to do with chlorine is pour it into an open basin and let it sit for 24 hours, and all of that chlorine then turns into a gas and evaporates from the water itself. So chlorine in tap water doesn't have to be a problem as long as you're letting it stand. Small amounts of chlorine in the water are actually good for your plant. So it all depends on how much chlorine your municipalities are putting into your tap water as it is, as too much is going to be detrimental. But chlorine can be good for your plants in small amounts, so it's all a matter of knowing how much chlorine your municipality is putting into the water, because too much chlorine is going to be detrimental. And then of course fluoride. Fluoride we know we need for our big, strong, healthy teeth, although they're starting to say, studies in Cambridge have been saying that actually fluoride is causing us to absorb aluminium from our drinking water, and that's causing dementia. So now we're starting to worry about that for ourselves too. But for our orchids, fluoride can cause problems. There are some orchids that are particularly sensitive to it, like Paphiopedilums, Phragmipediums, and even Miltoniopsis. They really don't like fluoride. Fluoride is going to cause browning of the root tips, necrosis of your leaf, especially along the margins. It's going to cause reduced growth and vigor of your plant, and it's going to cause that ever problematic chlorosis, that yellowing of the leaves. And our leaves start to wilt and die off. What happens with fluoride, it causes alterations in the chloroplasts inside the cells of your plant itself. So it reduces the ability of the plant to photosynthesize, causes that yellowing, because those chloroplasts are what causes the greenness in your plant. So it's basically like slowly killing off the organs inside your plant. And it can be a slow buildup that happens with fluoride. And then again with fluoride, it's absorbed up through the roots, and the ability for the plant to absorb it increases as the pH of your media increases. So that's the double impact of what this hard water is going to do. It's increasing the pH of your media, which is making that fluoride more accessible and more absorbable to the plant. So it's going to absorb more of it, which is then going to cause more damage. And not only is it going to affect those chloroplasts, it's also going to inhibit some of those enzyme pathways that happen in your plant for metabolism. So that's going to slow down the whole growth of your plant. Some of those mutated orchids, those ones with variegation or with pyloric flowers, are often more susceptible to fluoride than what some of the natural orchids are. And what happens here is often you'll end up with chlorosis of the flowers, and you'll end up with yellowing of those buds, and they fail to open and they just drop off. This can also be a fluoride toxicity problem. And now that I've made you all afraid and scared, how do we get rid of this fluoride from the water, from our tap water? Well, it's not really possible unless you're using reverse osmosis or some other filter to filter out those tiny little fluoride molecules or ions. You can't boil it out, because all you're doing is causing evaporation from your water, and that will just increase the fluoride concentration in that water. You can't leave it to stand, because nothing's going to happen. Those fluoride those fluoride ions in your water are just going to stay there. They're not going to evaporate out like what happens with chlorine that becomes a gas and evaporates off. The fluoride molecules are going to stay in the water. So the only ways is distillation or through reverse osmosis. So if you're using tap water, you can try and use some or other clean water then to flush your orchids regularly, either rainwater, reverse osmosis water, or distilled water, to try and remove those excess salts out of the media. It will help drain away any of that excess fluoride, And as I said, the chlorine we don't really need to worry about if we've left the water stand. And I know most of us do need to use tap water at some point. One of the ways you can use to check tap water is by using either those pool strips that you can dunk into the water to check the acidity levels of it, or you can use one of those TDS meters, the total dissolved solids meters, that are relatively inexpensive and you can get online just about anywhere. And if you're battling to find one of them, we do have a link to our Amazon store in the description box below. They are available on there. And if your only real alternative is using this hard water from your taps, then please make sure when mixing in your fertilizers, you aren't overdoing it. Reduce the quantity of your fertilizers down so you're not giving too many salts to your orchids, because that salt buildup is going to be really problematic. And when it does rain, grab some of that rainwater and flush your plant. And if there's anything else that you want me to explain about why water is killing your orchids, drop it in the comments box below and I'll be sure to get back to you. Oh, and if you thought you were safe using RO water or distilled water, I'm coming after you too next. My discussion on that's coming up in the next video. Also remember, Ed posts up a lot of information in that Buy Me Coffee link all the time. It's available to everyone, so go down, have a check out, see what's there, and if you feel like it, don't be shy, sign up, become a member, and grow like a pro. And if you found any of this information helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.